Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Check for another rapid fire comic book review. I'm going to get right started with Nightwing issue 94. So remember how I said that it was finally kicking up, was finally getting some octane to it. Yeah, now it's kind of just letting you know, hey, it's getting bigger, it's getting bigger, it's getting bigger. But hopefully this is it. Like after this, finally we'll get some more momentum. Anyway, so, if you recall last issue, Nightwing, with some help from Oracle, was able to release the information of the people that had committed all that vandalism in New Haven, courtesy of the Alfred Pennyworth Foundation, bobbity bop. And it was a bunch of police officers. So now they've all been called forward, and they're all basically getting fired and arrested by default. And they want to know who gave the order. Who gave the order? And of course, by default, it was the commissioner of the Bloodhaven Police Department. And this is all a plan by Nightwing, Oracle, and Dick Grayson's half sister, Melinda Zuko, to get all these pieces moving, get these corrupt officers out, as well as getting a hold of Blockbuster's files, which the commissioner of the Bloodhaven Police Department had as like a little temporary, like a shield in case anything came up. So he's getting ready to leave because Melissa said, hey, look, I got a plane, and you get on there and we'll go. It's fine. You'll be good. And it goes through. But again, this is all part of the plan. Nightwing comes in, and Nightwing has some good dialogue for the first time. He actually says something that feels interesting, and this is his relationship with the commissioner. It's like, you know what? You're the kind of person I despise the most. Like, you know what? Blockbuster's honest and upfront about who he is. He's a crime boss. He's coming, he's muscling in on his territory. But you're the commissioner. You're the police. All right. You put on this uniform, wear the badge, and take this oath, this promise to protect and serve the people. Instead, you've made them fear you, and I just can't. Like, yeah, it's which I think, yeah, great. This is great. It's a shame this wasn't really played up as well. Like, should this have just been the arc itself? Dick Grayson versus the corrupt police? I'm like, this is like the time period for that DC is really like not really throwing their hat into this. Technically, with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps with Robert Venditti, and there was a Scott Snyder annual that kind of did it, but really, I can't think of a time they actually did. You think Green Arrow would have a field day with this? Then again, I haven't read much Green Arrow, but whatever. So, Nightwing gets the files and the briefcase with the passport and whatnot, and he said, like, you know what, this is all I need, and he goes. Later, a press conference is held where the district attorney says, okay, yeah, so that was terrible what happened. So luckily, we've brought in some pinch hitters, some professionals. The mayor and I have picked Maggie Sawyer from the Metropolis Police Department, because, to the common man, what crimes do the Metropolis Police Department have to deal with? They have Superman there. Granted, with John Kent, who knows what crime actually does get solved. So that's the new future for Bloodhaven. I'm like, all right. Truth be told, Maggie Sawyer is a good cop, and good benefit for Commissioner. I like that. So that could all work. Meanwhile, Blockbuster's like, this is so bad. This is so bad. All right, so I don't know who told them to appoint Maggie Sawyer, but clearly something's going on here. Then the little henchman dude, I think his name is Lester, maybe, asked him questions like, why are you asking me questions? And yeah, so that's like the last time we'll see Blockbuster for a bit. Then Nightwing and Oracle make out because, of course, they have nothing better to do while going over Blockbuster's files. And then, luckily, Blockbuster shows up at Melinda's apartment, where, getting tea served by her mom. Love how he fits in that chair. Love it. He comes and says, okay, so I don't know who told you to pick that guy, but whatever. I get it. You're under pressure. You had to pick a choice quick. Whatever. Fine. That's not the issue here. Something's going on here. Someone is leaking information to Dick Grayson. This has all been about Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson shows up. I attempt to stop Dick Grayson. Something keeps getting in the way. It's like he knows someone's feeding him information, and I think I know who it is. So this leads to good. I'm gonna call him Lester. His name might not be Lester, but it looks like a Lester. And Blockbuster's like, this is the guy that's been leaking information. Like every time some new information comes out, he's right there with me. He's right there with me. Turns out though, this is a ploy to expose Melinda as the leak, because as soon as she sees Leslie, she's like, oh no, he is not the leak. So she calls Dick Grayson or Nightwing. He calls one of them. So she calls for help, and that's when they find out, oh, so you're the leak, like I thought. And that's how the comic ends. She's now kidnapped, and blah, blah, blah. The Battle for Bloodhaven's Heart, Part 3, coming soon. So here's a question. What does Heartless have to do with this entire story? Like, you think about it. If you took Heartless out of this story, what changes? Legitimately, what changes? Alright, you still have Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Oracle, Blockbuster, the homeless kids. Legitimately, the homeless kids could just be... could be exactly where they are. You don't need someone coming stealing their hearts, because that has not played a role. Maybe it'll come through next. The question is, what does Heartless want outside of hearts? Like, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts now, because why not? And still, I'm wondering, I know what the Heartless want, but what does Heartless want? I don't get it. And for some reason, Blockbuster thinks that the Heartless might be connected to Nightwing, but that is stupid. But, yeah, overall, still kind of most to nothing, but enough to keep me stupidly hanging around a bit longer. Alright, so next is a really controversial one. Superman, Dark Crisis, Worlds Without a Justice League. So, hang on. Written by Tom King. So, Tom King, it's amazing to think that there was a time when I really liked Tom King. I did. Has he changed? Probably not. Probably not. He's probably been the same seemingly difficult person to work with, kind of in love with his own ideas, wants to be Alan Moore, doesn't quite get Alan Moore. Then again, I'm not going to say I get Alan Moore, but whatever. That's not the issue here. This story is very in line with Tom King. I don't know why they let him write it. So, anyway. This story opens up with John Kent and a very weird family dynamic. Actually, it's more like a normal family dynamic. You know, Dad needs help doing superhero stuff. So he's like, Mom, where's my costume? Mom, where's my costume? And Lois is, on the computer like, I left it, I cleaned it, you know where it is. What? Mom, where's my mask? Like, look, you didn't give me a mask, so wherever you put the mask, that's where the mask is. I'm like, okay. This feels sort of like for a different family. Also, why is John dressed like Robin? Also, by the way, this is all a dream world that Superman is in. So this is what Superman dreams of his son being Robin. Weird. And yeah, so Lois is working late tonight. So Clark and John have to fend for themselves for dinner. Boop boop ba doop. They fight this Skeletor robot mech thing, which will probably have its own story in a different continuity, but whatever. So anyway, now they're talking about homework and the stuff. This entire comic is basically the 8 years that Clark didn't get to have with his son John, and the real meat of it was when he hit 14, and John hears the screams happening on Apocalypse. And apparently, Clark's like, yeah, that happens sometimes. You're going to hear about people being tortured on Apocalypse, because Darkseid's a thing. And I can't stop Darkseid. So this is sort of an interesting idea. It really is. So something we always kind of knew is that Superman hears untold tragedies all over the planet that he has to learn to tune out just so he can function. Like, because, the world is never not safe, all right? He can do all the work, and there'll still be someone who needs him, some horrible thing happening somewhere. He can't be everywhere. This also means, by default, he can't be on Apocalypse or New Genesis, interfering with that horrible, drawn-out, they just kind of hate each other war. And now John's hearing it. And John's mind like, well, why don't you do anything? Why aren't you helping save those people being tortured? And Clark's like, I can't. And it's not like he doesn't want to, but even he can't launch a war on Apocalypse, all right? He's just one man. He's Superman. He's the strongest superhero in the DC universe, yeah. I think that still holds. But even he can't just go up to Apocalypse and fight his way through, because either way he has to get through Darkseid, he has to get through Calabac, he has to get through enemies that are maybe not at his level, but are big enough threats with technology that could stop him. And that war, if escalates, will injure more people. So there's a bit more of a nuanced approach here. But all John is hearing is people need help, and they aren't helping. So yeah, this also feels like like he's kind of upset he didn't get to write Justice League Last Ride, but whatever. Also, I really don't like this art. So Clark is trying to console John, like, it's gonna be all right. You're just gonna have to learn to. It's a hard truth is that John's gonna have to learn to tune this stuff out. All right, he's gonna have to learn to focus, try to move past it, and then maybe one day they will be able to save the people of Apocalypse. To John, it's like, no, you're Superman, I'm Superboy. People need help, we have to help them. And then we cut to 15, where he goes to New Genesis and picks a fight with Orion. And yeah, he's 15, and oh my god, I hate this art. Oh, that's a punch right there. Oof. All those teeth are gone. We gotta get John Kent dentures at 15. But anyway, while he's getting his ass handed to him I'm hoping that's Apocalypse, not New Genesis. I'd hate to think that John punched Orion to stop Darkseid. Like, wait, no, Orion hates Darkseid. He hates his dad. Okay, whatever. So Superman comes to save him. Like, look, you've broken a bunch of treaties that have been made, truces set up long before you were born. Now Earth is in danger. So I guess this story is that Superman made a deal with Darkseid and I guess the forces of New Genesis. Like, look, I won't get involved. You leave Earth out of this. I'm like, well, first of all, Darkseid's been breaking that truce for years, so I don't know what's the point of that. And this seems like this was in Tom King's Strange Adventures, where Adam Strange makes some deal with, I think they were called the Pick, and it led to, like, he offered Earth and his daughter. Like, Adam Strange offered Earth and his daughter in exchange for ending war on, I believe it was Thanagar. It was one of those two. Look, I read it. Look, Strange Adventures was alright, but I really, really didn't care about Adam Strange. Alright? It's a good story, but no. This is like the same thing. Like, you don't know what it takes to be a hero. I'm like, oh, okay, but there are other Supermen that have done the same thing, that have made, like, the same claims to Darkseid. Look, you don't want to come to Earth. Alright, because I will wreck you. Alright, now at some point I'm going to have to deal with you and your stuff on Apocalypse and New Genesis, or I might have to stay out of it entirely. But the second you come to Earth, we're going to have a problem, man. We're going to have a problem. Alright? Superman can't get involved in every war. I think it's basically what he's trying to say, but it just looks bad. Because Tom King only really knows how to make characters look bad. Hence, Strange Adventures. Hence, Mr. Miracle. Hence, I think Human Target also feels the same way. And especially his Batman run. But anyway, we're done with that. 16. John gets a motorbike, still looking like Robin. Why is he wearing a mask? Like, I don't know. So, John gets a bike. The rule is he can't go outside of Earth's orbit, because, I guess Apocalypse forces are still out there or something. I don't know. And, yeah. 17, John gets into another fight with Orion. And this time he says, I got him, Dad. I beat his ass. I'm like, okay. Alright, your mother and I were worried sick because, you're a bloody mess, but okay. Then we skip to 18. John's a man now. He's leaning on the motorbike. He's got a hayseed in his mouth, all shit, a bit of grain, looking like a gangster. Look like a troublemaker. Alright? Looks like he's gonna go to an anime school and just mess some people up. He's like, yeah. See, I gotta deal with my own stuff here. I'm not like you, Dad. Alright, all you do is complain about things. All you do is let things get worse. You never try to fix things. This is kind of what John is. Like, yeah, man, you don't know what the problem is. You're the problem. I'm gonna fix the problem. And that's kind of where he goes off to. And Clark's like, is this what it's all about? You raise him to be good, try to keep him out of trouble. And you think when they're 18 it'll be alright. But then you realize they just become bigger and you still worry about them. And Clark's like, I wouldn't trade any of this for anything in the world. And I get it. Because, as we've said before, when Brian Michael Bendis aged John Kent up, Clark and Lois got to miss out on all of that. And what's weird is that, yes, the intention of the story to keep Clark in a world where he can just sort of relive those missing 8 years, sure, that's cool. The problem is, though, this just looks bad. Like, first of all, Lois is removed really from the equation, so that's not a thing. Does John not go to school like before? When Tomasi and Jurgens were running it, John went to school. John had friends. John had a life. And those interactions were also part of the experience that Clark had and Clark wanted to have as a parent. So did Lois. So there's really nothing wholesome about any of this. So this is like a weird, horrible nightmare. And it's not even about teaching John to be a proper hero or anything. He's like, no, no. Once again, Tom King cannot help himself. Is there some merit here? I think so. If I'm being honest, I think maybe the scene, which I think is like the biggest problem scene, is when John is hearing all those voices, and I think instead of really trying to sort of explain to John the problem of that, I can't just go and topple Apocalypse or stop Orion, it just leads to more problems. I can't guarantee that win. John doesn't have to make any decisions. I think what John needs to do, and I think Tom Taylor needs to do this too, is really show that it is not easy to try to save the world, let alone try to end a war. These things don't end that easily. And, but again, this is all a dream world that Superman is stuck in, so, so ultimately, Superman Worlds Without the Justice League by Tom King is what you'd expect from a Tom King book. It has some decent ideas. It feels more like a deconstruction in some places. Some ideas never quite feel explained. Like, why is John dressed like Robin? Why? Why? Like, John does not love Damian that much. Is Superman just like envious of, I think he might be, of Batman and Robin's dynamic? Well, don't be. Just about every one of Batman's Robins have either died or told him that he's terrible. Alright, in one form or another. Alright, I don't know. And finally, the icing on the cake for what seems to be a rather week is Dark Crisis Young Justice issue 2. I know it says 1 here again. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't. I just can't. I just can't. So, this story picks up with Young Justice, Bart, Tim, Connor, and Cassie Sandsmark fighting the Endowed. And it goes as well as you think. It all feels like kind of textbook. Like, now that Young Justice is here properly, they can take out the Endowed. And it just sort of feels like it was sort of going through the motions. And really, for a moment, they all sort of forget, like, hey, we weren't supposed to be here. And they even talk about, hey, were the villains always this weird? Were they always like this easy to beat? They feel like something's off. At least Tim notices it. Meanwhile, Cassie, our Cassie, is where they're supposed to be. She's getting Sissy to help, and Sissy and Cassie sort of have a discussion that really sums up this era, or at least how this book feels about the era of Young Justice. Like, you know what? Seemed like we hit a lot of Justice League made a lot of bad calls, finding a lot of bad guys and monsters that were just trying to do the best they could. And Ken's like, okay, yeah, we weren't always perfect. We made some mistakes, but we were kids then, and now we need to help our friends. And Sissy points out, your life is really just about Bart, Tim, and Connor. That is it. Every time you come to me, if you need help, it's always about those three. And it feels like it's sort of like a critique of that era, or at least of Cassie Sandsmark's character. And honestly, Cassie, I've never seen in a solo book. I think she had like one little short 3-issue thing. But for the most part, she's always been a part of Young Justice. So in a lot of ways, Cassie defines herself by being with those three. And Sissy points out, like, that was one of the reasons I left the superhero business. Not just because it was hard or it was dangerous, but because it felt like it was taking over my life, that I was never really about me. It was about those three. It was about being part of the team, and I just didn't want to be part of that. As well as the fact it seemed like it was really trying to say that there was nothing good about the 90s. But whatever. Meanwhile, at the Justice League Watchtower, in space, everybody meets their mentor superhero, guided by Cassie, and Superman's like, hey, it's time for you to be Superman. I'm like, oh, how? Connor points out, well, what about John? Like, you kind of replaced me with John. to be Superboy, so by default it's going to be Superman, which I always felt was kind of a lazy idea. Just because John is the son of Superman does not mean he gets to just automatically be Superman. But whatever. This Superman's like, I don't know who John is. You want to be Superman, though? Here you go. The same thing happens to Bart. Bart sort of realizes that Wally does not seem to listen to him. There's quite a seem to understand. Like, he's like, he's trying to talk to Wally about a problem. He points out that Barry would understand what he was talking about. Which I think sort of hammers home the idea that Wally was never really much of a mentor at that time. Again, this is more likely a look at exactly this book's look back at the Young Justice era. And then Cass is like, hey, you can be the Flash now. And the same thing happens with Tim. And for Tim, this is interesting because Tim took the mantle of Robin. Or, well, he took it. He said Batman needs a Robin. He like, Dick Grayson, be Robin again. Dick Grayson's like, I'm not putting that costume back on. Have you seen me lately? Have you seen my fan base lately? They will lose their mind if I wear those shorts again. I've already been sexually assaulted in the comics before. I ain't going through it again. And also in the movies if you count the Harley Quinn one. And Tim's like, has this been what it's all been for? I became Robin because there was a need for it. And then I wasn't needed to be Robin anymore. So is it really to be Batman? And he's mentioned that he does want to be Batman at some point. And then they mention, well, okay, so you can go tell Stephanie about it, and you can be like this happy couple. And he's like, but I'm not dating Steph. I'm dating Bernard. And Batman goes, spoiler is your destiny, especially once you get through this phase. I'm like, okay, so yeah, for those of you that don't know, Tim is bisexual. There was like a whole, I think, what was it, 3-4 issue story in Batman Urban Legends about Tim realizing he's bisexual. And apparently it was a terrible story. Next to no one liked it. He just sparked this discussion of, if you didn't realize Tim was bisexual, you have been paying attention to his comics. With the other argument being, if you think Tim is bisexual, you have been paying attention to his comics. So, by default, no one has a real answer as to why Tim is all of a sudden bisexual. The only real reason is this. The writers made him bisexual. It's kind of it. There's no real in-universe reason you can give because anyone else can disprove it with more source material. So, especially with DC's continuity being all over the place. So which stories are we going to count, not going to count? Anyway, enough about that. Tim is feeling some kind of way about this being called a phase. Could be a phase, could not be. Tim doesn't know. He might outgrow it. He might realize, yeah, I like the ladies. Or he might just go, I like guys. That's it. Tim does not know what the future holds for him. Neither does DC. So then, Tim, Bart, and Connor have like a powwow. It's like, what the hell is this? We gotta go. Connor's like, do we need to go? Who says we're in the wrong Earth? Like, this might be where we belong. Or it could be heaven. Screw it, maybe we're dead. Alright? This might be where we ultimately belong. Let's just hang out here. Let's just stay here and just enjoy. Connor's just happy that he gets to do something. Alright? Young Justice as a book, under Brian Michael Bendis, didn't do what anyone thought it would do. Bart needs a home. Tim needs people to have a plan for him. Here in Young Justice Land, they might have a plan or something. So, yes. So, Cassie and whatnot are going looking for Red Tornado, and on their way back to Happy Harbor and the Young Justice headquarters, Cassie, the Cassie that they can't quite figure out is who she is because they each pointed out that, hey, she was in the room she was in 3 different rooms at the same time, telling us that we had to be Superman, Flash, and Batman. They find her unconscious and being met by Deathstroke for Tim, Captain Boomerang. Captain Boomerang. Oh, I love superheroes. Captain Boomerang for Bart, and Lex Luthor for Connor, because for those of you that may have forgotten, especially if you have been watching Young Justice, which is, I think, the last time Superboy has mattered, is the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor. And that's how the comic ends. So, ultimately, this book is... Hang on. Mean-spirited. This book is trying to... It's supposed to be like a critique of, it turns out back in the day, sir, that times in the 90s were very offensive and very not PC. Turns out the old days when I was raised, we thought they were, yeah, low-key dad was kind of racist. Low-key, yeah, uncle, you shouldn't say that about people. Yeah, it turns out some movies back in the day made fun of sexual assault. Turns out you weren't supposed to. Turns out any jokes made about the LGBT community, turns out those are very problematic. Turns out back in the day things were kind of racist, sexist, homophobic. Usually they were played up for laughs, so it's alright. Sexual assault jokes are usually not, unless you're doing Family Guy, South Park. You know what? Turns out everything can be funny if it's done well, but whatever. This story is like one huge critique of that era. Like, turns out it wasn't that great. Alright, which is weird, because the only person who seems to really hang on to the idea of yesteryear, in that sense, is Cassie Sandsmark, primarily because that's the only time she's mattered. Alright? That era of books was when Cassie mattered, but to be fair, it was also the last time any of these characters really mattered. Young Justice, the Teen Titans under Jeff Johns, those were the times when those characters stood out. They were, in a lot of ways, they're a forgotten generation. Alright? Because they've been replaced. Like, Tim Drake was legitimately replaced by Damian Wayne. Alright, Damian Wayne came in, and when Bruce died, it was a whole story. Dick Grayson had to be Batman. He said, like, you know what, I don't need Tim to be my Robin. I gotta keep an eye on Damian. Alright, so Damian has to be my Robin. So effectively, he's gone. Tim, who was supposed to be set up to be Batman, the story's kind of set that at some point Damian will be the next Batman. So, yeah, no point in that. Bart's been replaced by Wallace West instead of Wally West, and Wally West is back, and there's also Wallace, and also by default, Wally's own kids. So yeah, there's also another speedster from China, so he's been replaced multiple times. Connor's been replaced by John Kent, the son that Clark actually had and wants and takes an interest in. You know, there's no Lex Luthor in John Kent. Maybe. Who knows? So he doesn't need... So there's no point in him being Superman. He's legitimately been replaced. John Kent is legitimately Superman now. So, yeah. It's kind of it. And Cassie Sandsmark? Okay, Donna Troy is still there, all set to be Wonder Woman at some point, whenever DC decides what set course Donna Troy is going to be in. You still have Artemis. Something's going on in her books now. I'm not reading them. Nubia could still be Wonder Woman. You have Diana, who, by the way, is still... a demigod, so yeah, daughter of Zeus, she ain't going anywhere. And then you have Yara Flor, who, in addition to being Brazilian, DC ordered set up to be the Wonder Woman for the future. So, where do these characters go? Where does this missing generation of superhero sidekicks, who were all set to take up the mantle of their predecessors, go? When DC introduces a new wave of successors to a mantle that has not yet been made ready available. They're sort of like weird hanging fruits in the continuity, because they bring up an era that maybe DC doesn't want to talk about. DC says, fine, superfluous. You know, they can't really get rid of it, so I think in a lot of ways, this story is designed to discredit it. Like, yeah, it wasn't that great, get rid of it. You know, who really cares about Connor Kent? Who really cares about Bart Allen? Who really cares about Cassie Sandsmark? Who really cares about Tim Drake? If we just got rid of them, what would it be? And you saw in the previous issue where none of the characters cared that they were missing. All right, Dick Grayson didn't seem to care that Tim Drake was missing. Wally West didn't care that Bart was missing. John didn't care that Connor was missing. It was like the only time they were like, "Hey, if you see them, tell them I need them." That's it. No one went to look for these people. So yeah, they're outcast. All right, this is the new Outsiders team. Actually, that book's over. Tell Black Lightning, Cassie Sandsmark, Stephanie Brown, Duke Thomas, who's been hanging around way too long anyway, that they're all fired. New Outsiders team. Actually, there was a plan to have Tim Drake lead the Outsiders. Make Tim Drake Red Robin again. Make Connor something else. Impulse is still a great name. And do something with the Wonder Girl child. Give her something else. So, yeah, and that'll be the new Outsiders team. There we go. The new Outsiders are just a group, just like the lost generation of superheroes. Alright? Go from there. I've ranted enough. So anyway, with that in mind, if you are new to the Bug Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some other videos, and I'll catch you all later. This is Bug Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.